An older farmer told a neighbor about losing a barn to a fire. He said it didn't start with a lightning strike or a fuel spill, just a tiny spark from a loose wire. It smoldered quietly at first. By the time anyone noticed, flames were racing through the rafters. He said the smallest spark can change the whole farm, sometimes the whole future. The Boston Massacre was that kind of spark. It was a moment small enough to overlook, yet powerful enough to ignite a revolution. Greetings, Patriots. I'm Perry Greene. Welcome to God in America, where faith and freedom walk the same road, guiding us back to the roots that shaped our nation. Today, we revisit a turn on that road to American independence, the Boston Massacre, March the 5th, 1770. By the year 1770, Boston was a powder keg. British troops patrolled the streets, custom agents harassed colonial traders, taxes piled up, and resentment simmered. The people felt watched, pressured, and unheard. The presence of armed soldiers on the streets didn't feel like protection, it felt like occupation. On the cold night of March the 5th, insults were thrown, snowballs were packed with ice, tempers flared, and soldiers raised their muskets. Moments later, 5 colonists lay dead or dying: Crispus Attucks, Samuel Gray, James Caldwell, Samuel Maverick, and Patrick Carr. The fuse lit in Boston that night, burned all the way to Lexington, and conquered in 1775. The Boston Massacre teaches us God values justice. When the government forgets justice, people lose trust. And when people lose confidence, freedom becomes fragile. Micah 6, verse 8, "What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God?" God also calls for courage. The colonists didn't choose violence, they chose the courage to stand for their God-given rights when those rights were being trampled. Psalm 27, verse 1, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" But also, liberty requires accountability. Power without restraint leads to tyranny. Our founders believed freedom could not survive unless leaders were accountable to God and to the people. Romans 14, verse 12. "So then each of us shall give account of himself to God." These principles shaped the response to the Boston Massacre. In 1774, 4 years after the event, John Hancock delivered his powerful Boston Massacre anniversary speech. His words still ring with wisdom and warning. Among the things he said were these: "Let this sad tale of death never be forgotten. Let it be impressed on your minds that the liberties of a people are from God and that they must be held with a steady hand." He reminded the crowd that tyranny often grows quietly. It's not the exertion of a bold hand, but the still voice of subtle encroachment that wrests freedom from the people, he said. Hancock also issued a challenge to the conscience of the colonists. "I call upon you," he said, "to remember the principles on which this country was founded: virtue, piety, and the love of freedom." To Hancock, the Boston Massacre wasn't a tragedy. It was a test of whether the colonists would forget who they were or stand up for righteousness. The reaction to the massacre was immediate and explosive. First, Paul Revere's engravings spread outrage, unity, and indignation. Second, committees of correspondence increased their communication. The colonies began to coordinate, share information, and band together. Third, the trial showed colonial integrity. John Adams, though a patriot, defended the British soldiers, proving the colonists believed in justice even for their enemies. He said, "Facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passion, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence." Fourth, the event marked a point of no return. After the massacre, the question was no longer if conflict would come, it was when. The spark in Boston shed light on something deeper. The people would no longer accept injustice, intimidation, or unchecked power. The Boston Massacre warns us what happens when fear replaces trust and power replaces principle. Today, we're not facing red-coated soldiers on King Street, but we are facing government overreach, censorship, and control, increasing hostility toward the Christian faith, rising mistrust in institutions, and a growing divide over the meaning of truth and liberty. John Hancock's words feel like they were written yesterday. A people who forget the God who gave them their freedom will not long keep it. The Boston Massacre reminds us that liberty requires vigilance, courage, justice, and a moral compass grounded in God. It teaches us something else critical. The first shots of tyranny are usually fired long before the first shots of war. Here at God in America, we hold fast to this truth. Faith is the foundation of freedom, and freedom is the responsibility of a faithful people. The Boston Massacre stands as a warning and as a call. We must remember the God who gave us liberty, the patriots who defended it, and the responsibility we carry to protect it for the next generation. Well, thanks for joining me today. This is Perry Greene. You've been listening to God in America, where we remember the courage, faith, and sacrifice that shaped this land. Until next time, patriots, stay vigilant, stay prayerful, and keep the light of walking in the liberty God has given you burning.